The digital clock on the bedside table read 2:47 a.m., and the sound, an almost imperceptible hum from Kelsey's phone, wasn't unusual. What was strange, what made my heart leap in my chest, was the speed with which she reached out in the dark, almost in a panic, to silence it. And then that glimpse, a look of guilt that flashed across her face in the brief glare of the screen before she realized I was watching. In that instant, the world I knew, the 7 years of marriage I believed to be solid as a rock, crumbled into 1,000 pieces. Derek, 33, a software engineer in Austin, Texas. That was my identity, the foundation of my existence. But suddenly everything seemed like a facade, a carefully constructed illusion that had just been shattered. Kelsey, my Kelsey, was 29 now. I remember her at 22 when our paths crossed in a coffee shop near the UT campus. She was a whirlwind of life, a communications major with untamed curly hair and an infectious laugh that made everyone around turn their heads. I was instantly smitten, and it seemed so was she. What surprised me most was the haste with which she brought up the topic of marriage. Barely 6 months into dating, and she was already dropping hints about rings and future plans. At the time, I thought it was romantic, a sign of how sure she was about us. Today, looking back, maybe I should have questioned that urgency. Our wedding was intimate, but perfect. Kelsey looked stunning in her grandmother's vintage dress, and when she uttered vows about wanting to explore life's adventures together, I thought I knew exactly what that meant. We'd travel, maybe get a dog, eventually have kids. Couple stuff, normal life. We settled into a comfortable routine in our small house in South Austin. I worked remotely most days, she landed a good job at a marketing firm downtown, and we fell into that married rhythm everyone describes. For 7 years, things were genuinely good. We had our inside jokes, our weekend rituals of hunting down food trucks and enjoying live music. Kelsey would snuggle up next to me on Sunday mornings, tracing patterns on my chest as we planned the week. She had always been the more outgoing of us two. I was perfectly content with quiet nights in, while she thrived on social energy. But it worked. We balanced each other out. Or at least, I thought we did.
Then came the conversation that should have been my first real warning. We were having dinner at our favorite Thai place when Kelsey suddenly put down her pad thai and looked at me with this serious expression. "Derek, can I ask you something without you getting weird about it?" I laughed, expecting some random question about whether I thought her coworker was hitting on her or something. "Shoot, do you ever think about spicing things up? Like, really spicing things up?" The way she said it made my stomach flip. This wasn't about trying a new restaurant or planning a weekend getaway. "What do you mean exactly?" She leaned forward, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. "I mean, we've been together for 8 years total, 7 married. Don't you ever wonder what it would be like to experience something new together?" I stared at her, completely lost. "Like what? Role-playing? We could do that at home if you want." She shook her head, frustrated. "No, Derek, I mean like meeting other people, other couples, exploring what's out there." The restaurant suddenly felt too hot. I could hear the couple at the next table arguing about their check, the kitchen staff laughing loudly in the back, but all I could focus on was my wife suggesting we sleep with other people. "You mean like swinging?" I managed to say, the word feeling foreign in my mouth. Her eyes lit up like I'd finally understood a complex math problem. "Yes, exactly. I've been reading about it online, and there are so many couples who say it actually strengthened their marriage. It's not about replacing what we have, it's about enhancing it." I felt like the ground had shifted beneath me. This was my Kelsey, who used to get jealous when waitresses flirted with me, who once made me promise I'd never even look at porn because it made her feel insecure. Now she was suggesting we invite strangers into our bed? I need to think about this," I said finally. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Of course. I'm not trying to pressure you. It's just something I've been curious about. We don't have to do anything you're not comfortable with." But the seed was planted, and over the next few weeks, she brought it up periodically. Always casually, never pushy, but the message was clear. Kelsey wanted something our marriage wasn't providing. She'd mentioned articles she'd read, couples she'd heard about, how communication and exploration were the keys to long-term relationship success. I tried to be open-minded. I really did. I researched, I read forums, I tried to understand this world she was suddenly interested in. But something felt off. This wasn't just curiosity. There was an urgency to it that made my skin crawl. Then came that night at 2:47 a.m., and everything I thought I knew about my wife came crashing down around me. 3 days later, I found out exactly what had made her grab that phone so quickly. I wasn't trying to snoop, I swear. Kelsey had left her iPhone on the kitchen counter while she showered, and a notification popped up that made my blood run cold. It wasn't the message itself, just a preview that said, "New match nearby," but the app icon I'd never seen before. A stylized heart with what looked like multiple overlapping circles. My hands were shaking as I picked up her phone. The lock screen showed several notifications from something called Field. I'd never heard of it, but something in my gut told me this wasn't good news. When Kelsey came downstairs 20 minutes later, hair still damp and wearing that oversized Austin FC t-shirt I loved on her, I was sitting at our kitchen table with her phone in front of me. "You want to explain what Field is?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. The color drained from her face so fast I thought she might faint. She stood there for what felt like an eternity, water from her hair dripping onto our hardwood floor. "Derek, I can explain. It's a dating app for couples and singles looking for, what did the description say? Open-minded experiences. How long have you had this?" She sat down across from me, and I could see her mentally calculating how much truth to reveal. "A few weeks, maybe a month. I was just exploring, seeing what was out there." Seeing what was out there. I repeated her words, tasting how bitter they felt in my mouth. "Were you planning to tell me about this exploration?" "Of course. That's why I brought up the whole conversation at dinner. I wanted to ease you into the idea before showing you what I'd found." The casual way she said it made me feel sick, like she'd been planning this whole thing, and our marriage was just an obstacle to navigate around. "So you created a profile for us without asking me?" She looked down at her hands. "Not exactly for us, just for me, to start conversations, to see if it was something we might be interested in." I opened the app. Thankfully, she hadn't logged out, and what I saw there destroyed something fundamental inside me. Her profile pictures were ones I'd never seen before, taken in lingerie I didn't recognize. Her bio talked about being new to the lifestyle and looking to explore with like-minded couples. Worst of all, she'd been chatting with people, lots of people. Jesus Christ, Kelsey, you've been talking to 37 different people. Some of these conversations go back 6 weeks. It's not what you think. Then tell me what it is. I slammed the phone down harder than I meant to, because from where I'm sitting, it looks like my wife has been shopping for people to cheat on me with. Her eyes flashed with anger. "It's not cheating if we do it together. That's the whole point of being swingers, Derek. It's about honesty and communication." "Honest?" I stood up so fast the chair nearly fell over. "You call creating a secret dating profile honest? You call having intimate conversations with strangers for 6 weeks honest?" "I was going to tell you when the time was right." "When? After you'd already slept with someone?" The question hung in the air between us like a loaded gun. Kelsey's face went through several emotions, guilt, anger, defiance, before settling on something that looked almost like pity. "Derek, look at yourself. Look at us. When was the last time you surprised me? When was the last time we did anything that got your heart racing? We're 29 and 33, and we live like we're 60. Her words hit me like physical blows. "So this is my fault, because I'm boring?" "It's not about fault. It's about growth, about not settling for mediocre when we could have amazing." I stared at this woman I'd been married to for 7 years, and suddenly she felt like a complete stranger. The Kelsey I married would never have talked about our life together as mediocre.
The Kelsey I fell in love with used to tell me that our quiet Sunday mornings were her favorite part of the week. I need some time to think, I said finally. She nodded, looking relieved that I wasn't screaming anymore. Of course, take all the time you need. And, Derek, I really do love you. This isn't about not loving you. But as she walked past me to get coffee, I caught a whiff of that unfamiliar perfume again, the same scent I'd been noticing for weeks. My stomach dropped as a terrible thought occurred to me. Kelsey, I called out, my voice barely above a whisper. Those conversations on the app, they're just conversations, right? You haven't actually met any of these people. The pause before she answered told me everything I needed to know. Of course not, she said, but she wouldn't look me in the eye. I would never do that without talking to you first. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling while she slept peacefully beside me. Everything felt like a lie now. Her late work nights, the new workout routine, the expensive lingerie, that damn perfume. How long had she been living a double life? And more importantly, what was I going to do about it? The answer came to me 2 weeks later, and it wasn't pretty. I tried to move forward, I really had. We went to couples therapy, where Kelsey painted herself as someone just trying to revitalize our marriage, while I came across as the uptight husband who wouldn't try new things. Our therapist, Dr.
Martinez, seemed sympathetic to both sides, talking about different love languages and evolving needs in long-term relationships. But I couldn't shake the feeling that Kelsey was still lying to me. She deleted the app, or claimed to, and promised to be more transparent about everything. She even suggested we start with something smaller, maybe just going to a dance class together or planning more adventurous dates. For a moment, I thought maybe we could work through this. Then, I remembered the GPS tracker. I'd installed it in our shared Honda CR-V about a year ago, after we'd had a few break-ins in the neighborhood. It was one of those family safety apps that lets you see where your loved ones are, completely innocent at the time. I'd honestly forgotten it was even there until I found myself checking it obsessively during Kelsey's late work nights. For the first week after our conversation, her location matched her stories perfectly. The marketing firm downtown, Whole Foods, yoga class, home. I started to feel guilty for doubting her. But then came last Thursday. Kelsey texted me at 4 p.m. saying she had a client dinner and would be home late. The GPS showed her at the office until 6:30, which made sense. Then she was at a restaurant in downtown Austin until about 8:15. Still normal. But at 8:47 p.m., her location jumped to a residential area in Westlake Hills I'd never heard her mention before. She stayed there until 11:23 p.m. When she came home, her explanation was smooth and practiced. The client dinner had gone well, and afterward, the client had invited her and 2 coworkers back to her house to continue discussing the campaign over wine. She seemed relaxed, even happy, but there was something different about her energy. She was more affectionate than she'd been in weeks, kissing me longer than usual and suggesting we order pizza and watch Netflix together. But her hair smelled like chlorine, and there was a faint tan line on her shoulder that definitely hadn't been there that morning. I didn't confront her that night. Instead, I did something I'm not proud of. I started planning my own investigation. The following Thursday, Kelsey announced another client dinner. Same story, same timeline. But this time, I was ready. I called in sick to work and followed the GPS coordinates to Westlake Hills. The address led me to an upscale gated community with houses that probably cost more than I'd make in 5 years. I parked across the street and waited. At 9:15 p.m., I watched my wife's Honda pull into the driveway of a sprawling contemporary house with floor-to-ceiling windows and a pool that glowed blue in the darkness. Through those windows, I could see several people moving around inside. A party, or gathering, or whatever the hell swingers called it when they got together. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles had gone white.
Part of me wanted to march up to that front door and drag my wife out of there. Another part wanted to drive home and pretend I'd never seen any of this. But I couldn't move. I just sat there, watching the shadows move behind those expensive curtains, imagining what was happening inside. At 11:45, the front door opened. A man in his 40s stepped out, wearing nothing but a bathrobe. Behind him, I could see Kelsey. She was wearing a black dress I'd never seen before. something short and clingy that she definitely hadn't worn to work that morning. She was laughing at something the man said, her hand resting casually on his chest. Then she kissed him. Not a polite goodbye kiss, but a real kiss. The kind of kiss she used to give me when we were still in the honeymoon phase. I don't remember driving home. One minute I was watching my wife make out with a stranger in a bathrobe, and the next I was sitting in our driveway, shaking with rage and heartbreak. When Kelsey came home 20 minutes later, I was waiting at the kitchen table with a bottle of whiskey and a printout of the GPS coordinates. "Hey, babe," she said, setting down her purse like it was any other night. "How was your evening?" "Depends," I said, not looking up. "How was Westlake Hills?" The silence that followed felt like it lasted forever. When I finally looked up, Kelsey was staring at the paper in my hands, her face cycling through shock, anger, and something that might have been relief. "Derek, I can explain." "Can you? Because I'm really curious how you're going to explain why you lied to me about client dinners while you were actually at some kind of sex party in the hills." "It wasn't a sex party," she said quickly. "It was just a social gathering for people in the lifestyle. I wanted to understand the community before we made any decisions together." The casual way she said the lifestyle made me want to throw up. And the kiss, was that also research? Her defiance crumbled. "You followed me?" "I used the GPS tracker you forgot was in your car. The same one you agreed to when we installed it for safety." I stood up, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. "How long, Kelsey? How long have you been lying to me?" She sat down heavily in the chair across from me, suddenly looking exhausted. "It's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is. Tell me the truth for once." And finally, after months of lies and half-truths, my wife told me exactly what she'd been doing behind my back. "I've been going to these gatherings for about 2 months," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Not to have sex with anyone, just to observe, to learn about the community." Bullshit. The word came out harder than I intended.
"I saw you kiss that man. David. His name is David." She looked up at me with eyes that seemed genuinely confused by my anger. "He and his wife, Jennifer, are like mentors in the community. They help new couples navigate the lifestyle safely. The kiss was just friendly. It's how people greet each other there." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Friendly. Right. Do you greet your coworkers that way too?" "You don't understand the culture." "The culture?" I stood up so fast the chair nearly toppled over. "Kelsey, listen to yourself. 6 months ago, you were jealous when our waitress at Chewy's flirted with me. Now you're talking about kissing strangers as culture." She was quiet for a long moment, staring at her hands. When she finally spoke, her voice was different, colder. "Maybe that's the problem, Derek. Maybe I was jealous and insecure because I was limiting myself to this tiny little world we built together. Since I started exploring this lifestyle, I feel more confident, more alive, more like the person I'm supposed to be." "The person you're supposed to be is someone who lies to her husband?" "The person I'm supposed to be is someone who doesn't settle for mediocre." There it was again, that word, mediocre. I realized in that moment that no matter what I did, no matter how much I tried to change or grow or become more adventurous, it would never be enough. Because the problem wasn't that our marriage was boring. The problem was that Kelsey had fundamentally changed into someone who saw our entire life together as something to escape from. "I want you to leave," I said quietly. "Derek, please, we can work through this. I'll stop going to the gatherings. We can start fresh." "No." I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw a stranger wearing my wife's face. "You've already left, Kelsey. You left months ago. You just forgot to tell me." The divorce took 4 months to finalize. Texas is a no-fault state, so her infidelity didn't matter legally, but I had enough evidence of her deception to protect my interests. I kept the house, she kept her car, and we split everything else down the middle. She moved into a trendy apartment downtown, closer to her community. I found out through mutual friends that she never stopped going to those gatherings in Westlake Hills. In fact, she became something of a regular. David and Jennifer, her mentors, helped her find her own place in their world. She dated several couples simultaneously and seemed genuinely happy with her new lifestyle.
Part of me wondered if I was the asshole in this situation. Maybe I was too vanilla, too conservative, too afraid to explore what could have been an exciting new chapter in our marriage. Maybe if I'd been more open-minded, more adventurous, more willing to push my own boundaries, we could have made it work.
But then I remember that kiss I witnessed, and how natural it looked on her. How comfortable she seemed in that black dress I'd never seen, in that expensive house with people I'd never met, living a life she'd built entirely without me. And I realized that this wasn't about me being too boring or her being too adventurous. This was about two people who had grown into incompatible versions of themselves, and one of them being too cowardly to admit it until it was too late. It's been 8 months since our divorce was finalized. I've started dating again, nothing serious, just casual dinners and movies with women who seemed content with normal relationships. Last week, I ran into Jennifer at Whole Foods, David's wife, Kelsey's mentor. She recognized me immediately and gave me that pitying look people reserve for the casualties of their lifestyle choices. "Derek, how are you doing? Kelsey talks about you sometimes." "Does she?" I managed to say, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know what those conversations included. "She says you're doing well, that you seem happier." Jennifer paused, clearly debating whether to say more. "You know, the lifestyle isn't for everyone. Some people are just naturally monogamous, and that's perfectly valid, too." The condescension in her voice made my skin crawl, like I was some kind of evolutionary holdover who just couldn't adapt to their enlightened way of living. But as I drove home to my quiet house in South Austin, the same house where Kelsey used to curl up next to me on Sunday mornings, I realized something important. I am happier. Not because I'm dating again, and not because I've moved on from losing Kelsey. I'm happier because I'm no longer living with someone who saw our life together as a cage she needed to escape from. I still don't know if I was the asshole for not being more open to her exploration. Maybe a better husband would have tried harder to understand her needs, would have pushed past his comfort zone to save his marriage. Maybe I gave up too easily. But I do know this. When your partner starts living a secret life and justifying it as research, when they start talking about your shared history as something that's holding them back, when they start kissing strangers and calling it culture, maybe it's time to admit that you've both outgrown the people you were when you fell in love. Maybe sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let go. Or maybe I'm just telling myself that to feel better about losing the only woman I ever really loved to a world I'll never understand. I guess that's for you to decide. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life trauma. Got a take on the situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We love hearing from you.